And then, the book that's coming out this August 2024, August 8th, I believe is the date, written in her own words, Wiser Woman Wisdom, Volume 2. So that's the book and that's my website. And, if my message resonates with anyone, you can get in touch with me through my website. If you're interested in hearing more about what coaching through self-love looks like, I'm happy to talk to people and have a free 30-minute call. They can email me through the website. I'm happy to talk to anybody who's interested in hearing more about what I'm doing.
Everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. Yet another amazing author on the podcast. Not only an author, but a newly minted coach as well. Like, come on, there's lots of great stuff happening. And Gina's on the podcast today. A great life starts with self-love, as the website says. Gina, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. I like to start here with everybody. Where are you in this big world of ours?
I am currently living in the San Francisco Bay Area in California, in the United States, and I've been here for roughly 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place in the world.
It is a beautiful place. Like, San Francisco is a very picturesque city, and I'm 45 minutes from the ocean on the, very Pacific coast, and then 4 hours away from amazing places like Lake Tahoe and Yosemite National Park. So, 5 or 6 hours from Los Angeles. Not that that's my favorite place to go, but it's not that far away. It's another big, exciting city. So it's a really fun area to live in. Lots of good day trips, wine country, all kinds of fun things to do here. Yeah.
Excellent. That's amazing. Great. Yeah. You are an author. You're a part of many projects and doing some great things. Can you tell us what was the spark for you that you were like, you know what? I have some free time. I think I'm going to become an author. Like, what was the initial spark for you to even go down this path about writing?
So I think I've known most of my life that I had, pretty decent writing skills. And I'm a divorced single mom. I have 3 children, teenagers now. And when they were born, I had a single child, and then 17 months later, I had twins. So I had 3 children in the space of 17 months. And
wow.
and so my twins were born in February, and that year was a total loss for me. I don't remember anything that happened that year. And when it came time for Christmas, I celebrate Christmas, I decided to write a letter because I feel like I was not on planet Earth for that year. And I decided to write a letter, a Christmas letter, rather than just sending out a card. I've always sent out cards. And I wrote this sort of funny, here's my crazy life, it was a 2-page letter, just what life is like with 3 infants in the house at the same time. And every year I started doing that since then. And I kept getting all these really nice compliments. I have this one friend who was like, Gina, I don't read Christmas letters. Yours is the only one I will read. The rest I just, let my wife read. So I was getting feedback that my writing was kind of, it touched people or resonated with people. They enjoyed my writing. And so I think it's always kind of been there. But the reason that I am now trying to officially be an author is that I hit emotional rock bottom a couple of years ago. And that emotional rock bottom ended up being this catalyst that has launched my life in a very beautiful and different direction. And I have a message. And so the reason that I'm an author now is that I really want to get my message out into the world, how important it is to love yourself, in a proper way. And that can really change the course of your life in a positive, beautiful way. So it was more about the message, rather than having the spare time, right, to write a book. And this is kind of changed the course of my life. Like, I am very focused on helping people learn to master the art of self-love. I have a coaching business, and that's what I do. And the writing that I'm doing, and the public speaking that I'm doing, it's all focused around this really important message of self-love and having a beautiful relationship with yourself.
So as we're recording, I see you on the Zoom with me here, and across the bottom for your name and title, it says Self-Love Coach. Now, it's kind of like, I'm sure there's people going, self-love coach. I've never had a self-love coach. Do I need one? What is a self-love coach? You've kind of talked a little bit about it. Can you expand on a little bit more? What is a self-love coach?
So I am a personal coach, right? Coaching has become a really popular industry in the last few years. I am just emphasizing my coaching business around topics of self-love. And self-love is a huge topic. It is not like it is a specific niche, but it's a big specific niche. Self-love touches you in every area of your life. If I can define self-love, I would say that it is the knowing and believing that you are valuable and worthy in every moment of your life, and showing up in a way that is consistent with believing and knowing that you are worthy in every moment of your life. So it's how you show up for yourself, and you can show up for yourself in your finances. You can show up for yourself in your career. You can show up for yourself in prioritizing your needs and wants. The way you would show up, let's say in a marriage, you have to work at that relationship to keep a partnership, I should say, to keep that relationship healthy. You have to work at it. To keep your relationship with yourself healthy, you have to work at it. And like I said, it influences every area of your life. So it is a huge topic. It's huge, and yet it's a small topic because it is a specific. Paying attention to yourself is something that I think we don't do enough of. And sometimes we think that we're being greedy or selfish or conceited or whatever if we're paying attention to ourselves. That is a possibility, but you can also pay attention to yourself in a very loving way that is not greedy and selfish. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. That makes, I guess, some more clarity. I like that. That's great.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned before we had record that you just graduated from a course as well. Can you talk a little bit about what the new things that are happening in your life right now?
Yeah, it's exciting. So I started my coaching business in January this year, 2024. And where I live in California, you don't have to be certified to be a coach. You can just decide to open up your doors as a coach. But I went ahead and got certified, and I've been certified through, it's called Mind Valley. It's an online personal development. It's like a website. It's like Masterclass, only it's very specific to personal development. So there are a ton of courses that they have in areas of personal development, and they have a coaching certification program. So I went through that. It was about 17 weeks of coaching and training and all sorts of things. So yeah, it was a great program. I love Mind Valley. If you're a Mind Valley fan, hello. So yeah, I'm that is accentuating my coaching business because it says that I know what I'm doing, right? So it's good to have certification to say that, right. Yes, I'm good at doing what I'm doing, or I know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Great. And now talk a little bit about the book as well. There's a book coming out later this year and late this summer. Tell us a little bit what's coming up for you as an author.
Yeah. So I'm working on this book. It is a co-authored book. There are, several authors that were each writing a chapter. So it's called Written in Her Own Words, Wiser Woman Wisdom, and this is volume 2. What the book is about is women who have been through some sort of transformation in their life, and we are sharing our stories with the hope of inspiring other people to do the same. I think it's great today that so many people are willing to share what's going on with them in a public way. Like, is it Simone Biles a couple of years ago with the Olympics? I guess maybe it was 4 years ago. She was set to perform to be an Olympic gymnast in the Olympics. And right before, she was at the Olympics and decided that her mental health was more important than her competing in the Olympics that year. And it was a very big story. And I think it was a beautiful thing. And that was very, very self-loving of her to say, you know what, my needs are greater than this Olympic moment, which may never come back around for me. She put herself first in a very loving way that was important for the rest of her life. And so I think that it's just this beautiful thing that people are willing to show their vulnerability and their humanness, because we are all hurting inside. We all have trauma from our childhood or, situations in our lives that we are suffering silently from, maybe. And I think it's important that we know everybody suffers. You're not alone in your suffering, and that you are allowed to take care of whatever is troubling you. So anyway, so the book is about sharing some of our own stories, again, in a public way, and hoping to inspire others to take time out to take care of themselves or to pursue that crazy dream that you've always wanted to do. Whatever it may be, it's just some form of transformation that may touch your life in a meaningful way. So that is coming out on August 8th this year, 2024. And we're self-publishing through Amazon, I believe it is. I think that's the route we're taking. Yeah. And then I am separately working on another book of my own. I've just been through my first round of editing. So, and of course I'm, getting ready to do the publishing aspect. And I've heard that it is a thing in and of itself to get your book published is not a small task. I've heard that writing the book is actually the easier part. There's a lot of decisions to make, and I have no idea where to start. But anyway, I am starting down the publishing path with my own book. My book is about, I have this self-love quiz, which you can find on my website. There are 10 questions, very simple questions. And it just gives you an indication of where your relationship with yourself is at. And so the book focuses on the topics of the quiz. And then I have a few other, chapters in there to sort of supplement and round out the book. But so I'm working on that. I do not have a date in mind yet. I'm hoping to get it published this calendar year. But we'll see how that goes. And then I'm, trying to do a lot of public speaking for groups. Like I'm in a women's networking group and I'm trying to speak there about this topic, and I'm getting really great feedback. I was so afraid to start talking about this topic publicly. Public speaking is something that I have been terrified of most of my life. And I took it upon myself to get over that fear, which again, it's a self-loving thing to do, to pursue a challenge that it was terrifying for me, but I decided to pursue it anyway. And it was a random topic. I could talk about anything I wanted to at my women's networking group. And I chose self-love. And I was really, really afraid of this talk. I took 3 months to prepare for it. And I took every day of those 3 months to work on this presentation. And of course, a week or two before I was to give my talk, my subconscious started noodling in at me, and that fear started to come up that, these are entrepreneurial women. They are already self-loving, people who love themselves go into business. If you don't love yourself, you don't usually have the courage to go into business for yourself. So I got really worried that I was talking to the wrong audience. And so the thing that I did is I said to myself, if that's the case, that's okay. I know my message is important. I decided to just own my message. And if I'm talking to the wrong audience, I'm talking to the wrong audience. This is about me getting up and speaking my truth and putting my message out into the world. If it resonates with people, great. If it doesn't, good for me that I had the courage to get up there and start talking about it. And so I gave my talk and it went over really, really well. I got really great feedback. And so after that, that is why I started to write my own book. My book is an expansion of what my talk was that day. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm like really comfortable speaking publicly. And this is amazing for me because I'm in my mid-50s. And for 53 years, I was so afraid to speak up. And now I'm really comfortable with it. For me, this is an amazing thing. For a lot of people, that may not be a big deal, but for me, it's huge. And it was all because I chose to trust and love myself and put myself out there, even though it was scary. And now I'm like really comfortable with it. So those are the things that I'm working on, publishing and speaking and working on my coaching business. And it has changed my life. I never thought that this is what I would be doing for a living, speaking publicly. No.
Wow. Does going on podcasts help a little bit as far as getting used to speaking and being like kind of the center of attention? Does that help at all?
Yeah. Absolutely, because I was somebody who, even having a conversation with someone who I don't know, and so David and, David, you and I have only spoken once before for, 15, 20 minutes. So like, I don't really know
Yeah.
you. Having a conversation with a stranger, for me, again, super uncomfortable in the past. But now, yes, I'm getting comfortable in this setting and talking about what I'm doing. And again, it's a self-loving thing. And it's another way to get my message out into the world that I will hopefully touch different people that I might not be through, might not be able to touch through my other outlets. So yeah,
Yeah.
podcast is a great way to put myself out there and get my message out there. Yeah.
Awesome. Because the reason I'm kind of leading the witness here a little bit, because we have authors that are listening,
Oh yeah.
and the thought of being a guest on a podcast makes them nervous.
Right.
The thought of getting on stage makes them nervous. So hearing your story gives them some encouragement to maybe take that step to either get on a podcast or get on stage. Just following your lead, this might open a door for them just listening to your story.
Absolutely. And I have to say, now that I'm comfortable with it, it's actually kind of fun. It used to be this terrifying thing, and now I'm really starting to enjoy it. So for me, it has opened up an area of my life that I never thought was possible for me. And it is fun to explore that with love and courage. And yes, it can be scary, but now I'm getting comfortable with it and I'm enjoying it. So I absolutely encourage, even though it's scary, if it's something you're interested in doing, yes, please get out there, and play around with it and have fun with it. And again, it's a way to get your story, your message, whatever it is, out into the world and to reach more people. Especially, books can be entertaining. They can also be educational. So depending on what your story or topic is, this is a great way to reach other people, and people want to hear your story. There are groups of people out there who need your story, who may be inspired by your story, and it's a great way to reach people you would not otherwise be able to reach. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you see a correlation between confidence and self-love?
Absolutely. Because for me, I grew up in a household where I was not nurtured and encouraged. And in fact, I had a ton of emotional abuse at home. And I grew up feeling like there was something really, really wrong with me. And I hated myself. I didn't know it, but subconsciously, I hated myself. And in fact, a few years ago, my subconscious, actually, I was sort of experimenting with where I'm going in life. Anyway, what my subconscious said to me, yeah, I never liked you anyway. And I was blown away. I'm like, whoa, that was a really hard thing to hear from myself, right?
Wow.
So I grew up, not loving myself. And yes, it made me want to hide away. So I had really low self-esteem, very low self-confidence. And part of learning to love yourself is knowing that you are worthy and lovable and wonderful. Each human on the planet has beautiful aspects to them. Are we perfect? No. But everybody has talents and gifts and interesting stories, and everybody is worthy. And knowing that you are worthy, not just logically knowing it, but believing it in your heart, absolutely boosts your self-confidence. So, yes, self-love is, like I said, it's changed my life. My confidence level is, I'm still growing in that part of my way of being, but it has escalated it, immensely. So this is learning to love myself is the best gift I've ever given myself. It is such a beautiful gift. And I think everybody on the planet needs to learn how to love themselves. Yeah.
I think because when we talk about the opposite, then the struggle with confidence, not feeling like a confident person, that's really hard to find self-love in that mix, because you're always doubting yourself, maybe imposter syndrome, all those things that we struggle with. It's really hard to then deal with that lack of confidence and then also at the same time have a balanced self-love for ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that's a connection that we need to kind of think about a little bit more.
Absolutely. I just lost. I had my train of thought that I wanted to say about that. Oh, well, we'll move on. If I come back to it, I don't want to
come back.
call it awkward silence now.
I love it. So what kind of things then dismantle self-love? You're all about helping people find self-love, build that up, and strengthen it. What are some of the things that dismantle and destroy our self-love?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of it probably happens in childhood. We are told not to brag, which, is true. That's bragging is sort of coming from a place of selfishness or greed, which is not a healthy thing. But we are sort of muted down. Children come into the world with just like no restrictions on who they are, right? It's kind of the beauty of children. They're pure and they're just full of love and they say and do whatever they're feeling. And then we start to become molded and shaped, of course you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So you be careful what you say. But some of us are really restricted in a very serious, like I said, where I grew up, everything I said and did was subject to very harsh ridicule. So, and that's why I started to feel like I can't say or do anything that's right. So I better just shut up and hide in the corner, right? Which is horrible to your self-esteem. But even, let's say you want to be a musician and your parents tell you, oh, you'll never make money. That's a waste of time. You have to go to college and you have to study some career thing that's going to make you wealthy and powerful. And your hope and dream of playing music gets shut down. So, anytime your hopes and dreams are squashed in any way can lead to you diminishing your sense of self-love because you start to think that my dreams are not worthy. How I feel about this is not a valid opinion. We argue a lot, not argue. We can have like really fun discussions with people. And it's fun to sort of debate things and people with differing opinions. But if you're constantly told your opinion is wrong, you start to believe it, right? So all of those kinds of things. Or if if you get laughed at. So for example, I'm really, really fair skinned. I am Caucasian. I'm one of the whitest skinned people you'll ever know. And that was another thing I was teased about like crazy as a child. And I, visually wanted to hide from the world, right? Even just being teased about my skin color, which I have no control over, diminished my sense of self-love because I felt like I was called Ghost and Casper and all these kinds of, unkind names. That made me feel like there's something wrong with me. The way people respond to you can tell you that you're wrong or bad or unlovable. And unfortunately, our subconscious listens to all of those things. And so I really think the subconscious the subconscious does a lot of really great things for us. It keeps us safe. And it does a lot of things behind the scenes. It's a wonderful thing to have, but it also can be our worst enemy because it listens to everything those people are telling you and it starts to believe those things. And the subconscious influences, you have your internal conversation. And if you want to say something and then your subconscious chimes in and says, don't say that, they're going to think you're an idiot and you shut yourself down.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things absolutely cause us to not love ourselves.
And I think in that moment too, we lose our voice too. Yeah. We don't want to speak up. We don't want to draw more attention to ourselves. So we feel like you said, we kind of blend into the corner and we just stay quiet.
Yeah. And so that's why I think fear of public speaking is one of people's top fears in life, right? I think it's death and then public speaking. And I think that's partly wise because people have shut us. We allow people to shut us down, right? Ultimately, it's your choice to speak up or not, but we allow other people to shut us down. Yeah. It's very sad. Yeah.
So talk more about your chapter in the upcoming book. Are you diving into more of this topic of self-love in that chapter?
Yeah. I talk about my rock bottom moment, that moment where this was only 3 years ago. And I had so my whole life has been full of rejection and all this stuff. And I'd had a really rough year. I had gotten divorced, which was a healthy thing for me. And I was struggling to figure out how I was going to support me and my 3 children, on my own. My ex-husband and I had our own business. And of course, when I got divorced, I was no longer a part of the business. So I'm struggling financially, and I decided to become an interior designer. And, I was doing all the right things. I had some clients, and I had two jobs where I kind of got fired without explanation. And then I had a couple of personal, betrayals that year. I had this really, really rough year. And I hit emotional rock bottom. I was so tired of being betrayed without cause. Like, it's not like I'm this terrible, evil person that I hurt other people. I didn't. I was trying to do the right thing. And people would really behave very badly toward me without explanation, without apology, no acknowledgement of what they did being wrong. And I was just like, I hit this emotional point of, I can't take it anymore. I'm a good person. Why are people treating me so horribly? And, I think it is normal as we hit those difficult internal pain moments in life. I think it's kind of normal for people to have these passing thoughts of, I don't know if I want to live anymore, but it's just a passing thought and then it goes away. And I went a little bit further than that in this case. I was not suicidal, but I hit that moment of, you know what, people suck. And I'm tired of existing on this planet and just struggling. And I went as far as to say, okay, I've got some nice amount of savings. I'm going to just take a year, spend my money, go live it up, and then take myself out. So I hit that moment. And one day I found myself in the shower, just beside myself with pain. And I let my emotions really bubble up. Because, a lot of times we shut our emotions down. And we tell ourselves, no, it's going to be okay. And no, I'm being, I'm overreacting, blah, blah, blah. And I really I let it all out. And I was screaming and yelling. And I yelled out, I deserve better. And I think I always logically knew that, but this was the first time that it was coming from deep inside my soul. I really did deserve for people to treat me better. And so I talk about that moment in my chapter, what led up to that moment, and then that moment. And that moment is where I started to shift. That is the moment where I think it was my subconscious finally said, yep, we need to do something different, because this is not, I can't do this anymore. And then, and then I started to just pay attention to myself. It was during COVID, so it was very convenient to withdraw from the world. I gave up my interior design business and I decided I was going to take a year off and not work. And just start, what is it that I want out of life? What are my goals? What are my hopes and dreams? Because I had been a people pleaser. And I didn't know who I was because I had placed more value on making other people happy and not making myself happy. So I decided to figure out who I was. And that was my journey of self-love. And it actually took me 2 years before I really kind of figured myself out. And then I discovered this self-love is this super important topic in the world. And so that is what my chapter is about. It's kind of, short story because there's several authors in the book. So we can't, I can't make it a whole 300-page thing. So it's kind of a short story, but that's where the focus of my chapter is. And I think it's an important message for people to hear.
Did you find it easier to write a single chapter as kind of a newer author? I'm thinking of new authors that are listening and they're a little overwhelmed that they're writing an entire book for their first ever attempt at being an author. Maybe a chapter writing when collaborating with other authors might be a good introductory way to get your name out there and start writing.
I think that it actually is because you have, so in this case, and I don't know if this is how it typically is, but I imagine this is how it typically is. There is someone who is overseeing the whole project, who's coordinating the book. And so that person might act as in my case, Mary Knippel, she is our editor. So actually my first chapter, we're in the process of writing this book. It's coming out in August. My first chapter is due tomorrow, my first draft. So I'm in that process of writing my chapter. But I have Mary is there to help me edit it. So I will submit it tomorrow. And I'm sure, in a few days or weeks, a week or so, it's going to get back to me with some feedback. And then, and then we're meeting as authors. We're meeting like once a month to kind of share our own individual stories. So it's almost like a support group. So
Nice.
there is that support with the other authors too. And Mary has a publisher. So we're self-publishing through Amazon. But there is someone who is handling that end of it. And we're meeting and talking with her too. So it's a great way of, going through the process with the other people already in place. I don't have to find the editor. I don't have to find the publisher. I have a group of other women who are writing our book together. And so, yes, it's a great way to get started because you don't have to do the whole thing on your own. It's an introductory, it's like writing 101. So, yeah, I think that would be a great idea for someone who's considering, especially if it's a personal story as opposed to like a fictional story. But I'm sure there are books like that as well. I don't know how you go about finding. Mary was in my networking group and she had already done her first volume. So again, it's written in her own words, Wiser Women Wisdom. She did volume 1, I think it was about 2 years ago. So she's in my networking group and that's how I know her. That's how I found her. I was like, yeah, I want to do this. So now we're coming out with volume 2 in a couple of months in August. But yes, I think it would be a great way for someone who's considering authoring and doesn't know how to get started. I think it's a great way to have some hand holding and to get you through at least part of the, a good part of the process.
Yeah. And you also have multiple authors combined together promoting the same book. So you're not out there promoting your own book by yourself.
Exactly.
There's a team of you promoting the same project.
Right.
So that's nice too.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you get to like talk to them about how they're feeling about what they're doing. And, how do you write or how did you find Mary? How did you get started? What are you working on? So it's fun to hear the other authors' stories too. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the book that you're working on as well. But at this point, let's just talk about the website a little bit as well. Gina, tell us about what's on the website. You mentioned we can take the quiz. I'm seeing it on the website as we're talking.
Yep.
The free quiz is there.
Yep.
But tell us a little bit more about what can we find when we come to coaching Gina on your website. Yeah, let's go through there.
Okay. So let's see. I haven't looked at my website for a little while.
Put you on the spot, right?
Right. Because I have someone else handling the website, of course, right? It tells just a little briefly about my story and, why I have a blog actually on my website.
I see that.
Yeah. And I'm trying so I started this in August of 2023. I'm trying to post a blog once a week. I've been very busy this month and have not posted, I think, only once this month. But yeah, I've got a blog and they're like 5-minute reads and they're all various little nuggets of different aspects of self-love. Some of them are even mildly humorous because I think it's fun to write with a little bit of lightheartedness attached to it. So I've got the blog and it's for free and you can subscribe if you want to. You don't have to, but if you subscribe, you get to know every time I post a new blog, you get an email notifying you. And it talks a little bit about, I'm working on developing a group program. So there's a little bit of blurb in there about self-love group support program that I'm working. I don't have that in place yet, but I'm working on it. So it talks a little bit about some of my programs. But yeah, I think the self-love quiz is actually a really great indicator. Now you have to take the self-love quiz with a grain of salt. I think there's 10 questions on there and they're very benign questions. I'm not asking any deep triggering questions. So there's just a few questions that just give a general idea of what your relationship with yourself looks like. Does your subconscious like you or not like you? And it gives you an idea of, what that looks like in your life. If you're subconsciously not in love with yourself, you're probably struggling in every area of life. You feel unfulfilled. You have a hard time reaching new goals. You have to feel like you're stuck. Whereas if you, score very high on the quiz and you're in a good place with yourself, your life is probably feeling pretty fulfilling. And you probably achieve goals pretty quickly and easily and fully. So anyway, the quiz gives you a sense of where you are on that scale. and what that kind of looks like in your life. And I think this is really useful information because then it gives you, a platform on to know, oh, I'm in a self-sabotage mode and I can have control over that by consciously overriding my subconscious choices. So it gives you a little bit of insight into what's going on internally for you and what level of maintenance or work you need to do to get to a self-loving place.
Great. I love it.
Yeah.
Gina, as we kind of wrap up our conversation, I want to have you back as your book comes out as well
I'd love to
in
come
the future. So keep me in mind.
Absolutely.
All right. Because I'd love to promote that new book as well.
Right.
But I'm always curious, who inspires you, whether it be an author or a speaker or somebody in your world that you look to that brings you kind of that thought-provoking ideas and teachings that help you in your own personal journey?
Yeah.
Who is it for you that you look to?
The first person that comes to mind is actually a celebrity, Oprah Winfrey. She came from really, really humble origins, right? She was expected to be nothing more than, I don't mean to downplay that. She was expected to simply be a housemaid for probably a white family. That was what her family, really, that was the level of expectation for her life. And she has become one of the most powerful women in the world, with a really powerful voice, literally and figuratively, right? She is not only the name in front of the camera, but she, for a long time, has owned her own name. So she gets to be her own producer. So her message that she's delivering is her concept, and she's the one delivering it. And I think that is super, empowering that she 100% gets to own her message, and she's got a huge platform in the world. And I believe that she really is trying to lift people up. I think that her messages are very positive, and she's an amazing public speaker. So given that I'm hoping to one day become a more well-known public speaker, I can't be Oprah Winfrey, right? I have to be myself, but I do look to her for inspiration, and just her presence for me is very, powerful, but yet gracious and authentic. And so she's someone that I really, I would love to work with her someday on any level. And I mean, working, not just to get to meet her, but to work with her and to partner with her in lifting people up in the world. And then the second woman is Michelle Obama, also just an amazing public speaker. And I was very surprised in the last couple of years, she's come out, I think with her second or third book. And she talks about how she doubts herself, that she is somebody who does not have the self-confidence that you would think she does based on the way she presents herself when she's speaking. And it just makes her that much more real to know that, you can be at that level, have that kind of a world audience, and still doubt yourself. And that again, it's normal, it's okay, it's human. She even talks about the fact that, and I don't mean to get political here, but her self-doubt became an issue when her husband, the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, wanted to run for president. Her lack of confidence, or whatever that is for her, almost prevented him from running for president. Wow. And that she was able to step past her own level of fears around that, and to allow him to pursue that, that endeavor. So I just, again, appreciate and respect her vulnerability and sharing those details. And I think that both of those women, amazing public speakers, and have had such a positive influence on their audiences. And so those are the two women that first come to mind for me, and who inspires me, and I want to work with both of them someday. So knock on wood, if they're listening, please come and find me. I would love to work with you.
Of course they're listening. You're on the podcast. They're going to listen to this episode.
Yeah.
I love the grace that they have.
Yeah.
They have a humility about both of them.
Right.
That in common, and they're all about everyone else. How
Right.
can I serve? How can I lift others?
Yeah.
That's a commonality between the two of them that I really admire too.
Right.
I like
Like
that.
they're not there to pump themselves up. I really believe
Yeah.
both of them have very good intentions in helping other people be their best self. And I think that is an inspiration in and of itself. Yeah. And I just think what they're doing is beautiful. And I want to be a part of that messaging, and do the same thing for others as well.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Gina, tell us about the website again. Where do we go? How do we connect with you?
Yeah.
And keep up to date on the book in August, and then your own book later on in the year.
Right.
Tell us about the website again.
Yeah. So it's CoachGinaCoviello.com. So I know my name is hard to spell, but if you're listening to the podcast, I think my name will be somewhere in the print there. So it's Coach
Oh, yes.
GinaCoviello.com. And then, the book that's coming out this August 2024, August 8th, I believe is the date, written in her own words, Wiser Woman Wisdom, Volume 2. So that's the book and that's my website. And, if my message resonates with anyone, you can get in touch with me through my website. If you're interested in hearing more about what coaching through self-love looks like, I'm happy to talk to people and have a free 30-minute call. They can email me through the website. I'm happy to talk to anybody who's interested in hearing more about what I'm doing.
Excellent. And for the event planners that are listening, here's a great guest for your next event. Reach out to Coach Gina, and I'm sure she'd love to come and speak.
Yes.
And be a part of your event. So, hey, we got event planners that listen to the show. So they're making notes.
Yes,
right
thank
now.
you. Yes, I would love to come and speak. I'm in Northern California, in the San Francisco Bay Area. So if you've got and I can do online as well. If you've got an organization that you think people would benefit from the message of learning how to love themselves better, I really would look forward to speaking with you about that and looking at how I can get my message to your audience. Absolutely.
It's amazing. Coach Gina, thank you so much. Congratulations on your new coaching accreditation. I'm so excited for you and all that. That's a lot of hard work to get there, and I hope you do very well with all of this. And congratulations in advance on being part of this collaborative book with your other great co-authors, but on your own book as well in that journey. Looking forward to have you come back and give us an update in the future.
Thank you, David. I would love to come back in the future. I will let you know when my other book gets published. I appreciate the time having me on your show, David. Thank you.
Beautiful. Everyone, all the information is always in the show notes. Go there and click through. Leave a great review for the books as they come out as well. Let people know about Coach Gina's books and her writings. Go check out the blog, sign up, and be a part of that as well. Coach Gina, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, David. My pleasure.
Hey, thanks for listening all the way to the end of the podcast. That's a big signal to all of the players, the YouTubes, the Apples, the Spotifys, that you found value in this episode of Living the Next Chapter. Just by you listening to the end. You just sent a huge bat signal out to the app saying this was a great podcast, a great conversation. So you listening to this point, you've done your job. I have one more ask of you. If you know anyone that would benefit from this conversation, would you share this episode with them? Would you just get on, send them a message, send them the episode, tell them about this episode, tell them to livinginthenextchapter.com to get all the information about the podcast. Can you do that for me? Because the more people that hear this message, this episode, the better. I want to support these amazing authors. And I know you do as well. So sharing this episode really helps. And I appreciate you. See you on the next episode. And thank you for listening to Living the Next Chapter.